watching plays and scores retold. In this podcast the game unfolds. Every try and tackle shared. Legends of the field, none compared. Echoes of cheers, the crowd gets loud. In this audio space, we feel so proud. Pass the word, let the speakers blast. Rugby tales from the present and past. Through the airwaves, our spirits cast. In this rugby love, forever vast.
Okay, guys, last week we made some predictions. I went with the Bulls against my will, but I did go for them, and I did go for Leinster. And unfortunately, both of them were right. So now we don't have a final in South Africa.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
That's the one thing that buggers me.
Mm.
I would like, if it was tables turned around and it was Glasgow that was on top of the log, and Leinster got the win, that wouldn't hurt me. That would have been fine, because then they have to come here. But now you have the number one on the log, that finished on the log. You have all those players getting back into the team, not like the other years. Like Elias mentioned something about Van der Vlier is also now going to be in the game.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he mentioned something about Van der Vlier will also be available. So,
Oh dear.
yeah, it's going to be the best. Like Jake
Yeah.
White, I saw something that Jake White said. He said, no, it's going to be the Bulls against Ireland. And that's true. It's going to be the Bulls against Ireland.
Yeah, because I think he made the point of like the number of, like, if you combine the caps that the Leinster players have for Ireland, it's more than the Bulls players have for URC.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, oh, it's just like there's a lot of people who've been capped. Like, it's a lot of people with a lot of caps. So, like, in truth, Leinster have no business losing this. But, I think the Bulls will hopefully take their minds back to the first URC in the semi-final where they played Leinster, and Leinster had no business losing that either. So it is, it's still possible that that the Bulls could win. I mean, if we're honest, the Bulls had no business losing at home in last season's final either. But stranger things have happened.
Hallo Elias.
Hi julle.
Hallo Elias. Hallo.
Hi Kobus.
Elias, hoe het jou predictions geloop vir die naweek wat verby is?
Man, ek het mos nou nie op die Bulle en die Sharks, ek het mos maar gehoop die Sharks wen die Bulle. Maar ek het maar gedink jy weet die Bulle gaan wen. Ek het maar net gedink daai skram is ook net te sterk, en toe ek nou sien Etsebet hulle is ook uit, jy weet. Toe het ek nou maar aangeneem die Bulle gaan wen. Leinster, dink ek dit was nogal 'n cool gewees vir my, so persoonlik kan ek nie sien hoe die Bulle Leinster gaan wen nie. Ek het van die begin af gesê, jy weet, as Leinster vroeg uit die European Championships gaan uitval, in hulle play-offs, dan behoort hulle die titel te vat, en ek staan by dit, jy weet, want ek dink net hulle is 'n bietjie honger vir dit, en nou sê die mense dat dit nog nie 'n URC gewen nie, maar hoeveel jaar bestaan die URC nog nie, jy weet. I think you must go look at the Pro 14, they played there, and they've been champions for a long time, or many times before, and even in the European Championship. So it's a very good team. I can't see the Bulls winning, but yeah, good luck to both teams. But my bet is on Leinster.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
Elias, you said it, if I remember correctly. We were in the semis, I think, of the Champions Cup, where you said it already that if Leinster lose here, they won't make the same mistake. They will boost the players, and they will take it this year. But Damn. I was not convinced. I thought, okay, but they're going to make the same mistakes. They didn't make the same mistakes. But what I saw, what they did to Glasgow, man, I don't think the Bulls will. There's no South African team that will top that.
Yeah.
I don't. The Bulls, they're going to bribe with us this weekend after the game because they're going to be sad.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I tell you what's scary in a way, though. And I suppose I understand the frustration of Leinster fans. Leinster, it, really, like, it's weird to say a team has been underperforming where they've made playoffs, and all that. But again, this is basically Ireland, so it's actually surprising that we're in URC 4, and only now have they made a final. Not even like, oh, only now could they win. No, only now have they made a final. And I think with Champions Cup, I'm trying to remember if they've made a Champions Cup final in the last 4 years. It's a very weird time for them, but I suppose in some ways they have a lot of pressure on, right? Because I think Victor Matfield was saying it's now or never for them. If they don't win this, then you have to be looking at Leo Cullen to say, you've been in charge of essentially a national team who should be dominating at the very least URC. You can understand, maybe not winning Champions Cup consistently, but you really should be winning URC. Where are the URC titles? Like, where are the 4 URC titles we're supposed to have?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
last week I asked the question, Elias, you were here. It was you, me, and Moya last week.
that's it.
Yes. And I asked the question, why doesn't Leinster just bury the teams within 20 minutes? It's like they're holding back, holding back. Damn. I was sure. It's like they listen to
Careful what
somebody.
you wish for.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for because you might just get shocked a lot. My jaw was, I told my wife, listen, this is a game, but I'm more going to focus on the Bulls and the Sharks game. I'm just going to look every 3 minutes now and then. My jaw was dropping by the third minute and I was locked into it. It was like a fairy tale.
See, if I ever bump into Franco Smith, I'm not going to tell him that that you made that criticism of Leinster right before they played Glasgow.
But it wasn't me, Moya. It's a video I saw. I told you guys, I saw a video about a Leinster guy that mentioned that. And then I said I
Right,
kind
right.
of agreed with it. Yeah, so they listening to him. Imagine if the Lions can just listen to one Lion supporter. Just
Yeah,
what chances we can have, huh?
yeah, exactly, exactly. I
Yeah,
think
you
that's
know what
what we need to do is get them to listen.
yeah, you know what I think about the Champions Cup. I see they've let me just go back here. Sorry, I was reading it now. They say there were 4 consecutive times they were Pro 12 URC champions, including
Mm,
Pro 14 titles from 2017 to 18 and 21 to 22. And obviously they've won the Champions Cup also. And
mhm.
yeah, and just the execution, just to add on with what you guys were saying now, the execution of the Leinster, of their backs, was just like next level. I think there was like 2 or 3 knocks and maybe 1 forward pass, but the lines of those guys that are running, especially low,
Mm, mm,
he just knows exactly where to run and not to overrun the ball. 80-90% of the time. The defense is just like next level. And I watched the Bulls game compared to the Leinster game, and it was just like a level down.
Yeah,
Just not that quality. And I also think that on the day, I can't see them just winning Leinster. If they do, that's off. I'll be the first one to actually congratulate the Bulls supporter then, or any
yeah,
Bulls, and Bulls to say to them, well done. But
absolutely.
I
especially
can't see it happening.
especially if they do it with 12 players on the field, getting 3
Sure.
yellow cards in a row. Against
Yeah,
Leinster. Yes, that will be 28
Yeah.
points. Gone, quickly.
Exactly. They would likely have to throw in the towel there. But it's also weird. A strange thought just hit me. And look, I'll be the first to concede that I'm probably very wrong on this. But strangeness is, I would say the Bulls players have more finals experience or more recent finals experience than Leinster. Um, I'm not sure if that'll be a factor or not, but it does spark some interest where we have some players in the Bulls who are playing in their third final in URC. You have someone like Kanan Moody who's been involved in a successful World Cup campaign and that sort of thing. What does that, like, how much of an influence does that play when you're up against a team filled with players from Ireland who have not been in many finals recently?
Guys, I have a serious question now. You saw the Leinster game. Now imagine there's no Jake White, okay? And you have to coach the Bulls now. You saw only that game of Glasgow versus Leinster. The way, like Elias mentioned, the lines they were running, and the unpredictable. They didn't do the same thing twice. They were
Yeah.
mixing it up, mixing it up, mixing it. How were you prepared defensively for Leinster? Me,
Tell everyone to go for an intercept.
I, I would just call my attackers and say, please take a rabbit out of the hat. I don't know, miracles happen. Just wing it on that side because the fence will be optional.
Yeah. Just be like, hey, everyone try link hands as best you can and just run in a straight line and try to stop them because, it's going to be very difficult. If they play, and I suppose that's also the question is, do they play their semi-final game or do they try to switch things up because they feel it's a final? And I suppose the same thing is true of the Bulls. Do the Bulls get really conservative and say, listen, you know what, we're basically going to go from set piece to set piece. That's all we are going to do. We're not going to try open things up. We're not going to try anything flash. Or do they say, hey, listen, let's let's do our best to create opportunities, but if it gets even slightly loose, we're just going to run and we're going to do what we can.
Yeah, if I was a Bull supporter, I'd say, go for the scrums because the Bulls have a very strong scrum. So I'll try and go for those tight heads, those tight heads, those vaskoppen. What do you call it? Vaskop again? Niels Hopkins?
Tight it. Yeah, tight it.
Yeah, sorry. And then go for that. They don't have a honeycomb with the loose ball, so they going to miss a huge turnovers. But they've got Marcel Coetzee. But then again, also Leinster. I don't think Van der Flair is going to be ready for the final. I was hoping he was, but I don't think he's ready. And so that can also be a problem for Leinster, But again, the depth of Leinster is just like next level. Where in South African terms, the Bulls have depth. I mean, nothing compared to what Leinster has.
Hoorie Elias, ekskuus, ek het vroeër het ek genoem, jy het gesê hy gaan beskikbaar wees. Ekskuus, ek het jou verkeerd verstaan.
Ja, ek het gedink hulle het gesê hy gaan reg wees vir die final, maar toe het hulle nou weer gesê hulle daarso is daarso. Ek dink daar's 4 spelers wat nie gaan reg wees vir hulle nie. En dis van die ouens wat ook gekies gewees het vir die British and Irish Lions. I'm just looking here. I think it's Gary Ringrose is also not going to be available. But obviously they will start with RG Snyman. They'll go with him for a start.
Yeah, and again, they've got built-in cheat codes, really, because, I mean, where you have Snyman and Barrett on your team, like that's already you put yourself at a distinct advantage. I do wonder if maybe the key for the Bulls will be pressuring Pendergrast. Although Pendergrast actually had a really good semi, so...
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering myself.
I think the only hope for the Bulls this weekend, Moya and guys, is that we all know Ireland choke in the World Cup in the quarterfinals. That maybe Leinster will choke. I can't really for the first time in a long time. En Niels, hierdie is moeilik om te sê. I'll be supporting the Bulls because they're from South Africa. But after watching the game on Saturday against Glasgow, I cannot see the Bulls getting away with the win.
Yeah, I will
Yeah.
also support the Bulls. I will support the Bulls up until the first yellow. Then I'm going to stop.
No.
But talking about yellow, how can the Sharks not capitalize against 12 players? How? With all the names they've got, with all the money they spent, and they stuff it up like that. How can you not capitalize when you're playing 15 to 12?
What went wrong for the Sharks? What do you guys think went wrong for the Sharks?
You know what I think? They were on the edge of scoring those tries a few times. I think it was like 3 or 4 times they were on the on the line to score. And I think 2 of those times they probably knocked the ball. And I think there was 2 or 3 held ups, so I think like you say, they didn't capitalize on scoring the tries. A great defense from the Bulls, but they're going to need that defense when they're going to play Leinster. And also about Leinster is, again, I'll say the European teams, they start with their defense first and then attacking, where we different. We just do it the other way around. And so you were saying just now, will they have the same game plan? I will change it, but I also don't think they really have the time to change it, to mix it up. Like you said, I think they'll just probably play their normal game, keeping it tight in the front and then keeping the ball to the back line. But you guys say you're going to support the Bulls. I'm not going to support the Bulls. Only South African team. I can't. Not in my lifetime. I can't
Ek gaan
support
nie
them.
lankie oom.
Sorry about that. I'm just being honest about it.
Ek gaan nie lankie
No,
oom.
it's all good.
Dit gaan so 3 minute, 4 minute wees, dan kom maar eers gee jou kaart. Dan hoef ek nie meer nie.
Yeah.
You know what, though? I think what might have impacted the Sharks, and I think it's something I said last week, or at least it's been on my mind since last week. If I didn't say it, was it seems like in some ways, because they have such a pool of talent, they seem to be content with doing just enough. And that seems to be the mentality. And, like, even where they up the intensity, it's like, well, we're not, because when you look at how many current Springboks there are in there, for one thing, it should be, the glimpses that we saw in some of the Champions Cup games, that's what we should be seeing, where they're just, like really, 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 this juggernaut that's unstoppable, right? Instead, what we're getting is guys moving pretty much like they're like, yeah, look, I'll do just enough for us to get the win. I'm not gonna, look, that's the sense I get, and maybe I'm being a bit too cynical about it, but I just get that feeling that, it's the, how can I put it? Guys are doing that whole thing of they're actually turning into average for them, for the club, but then, they're top notch for the country.
Yeah. It's also interesting with what Jake Whitewell was saying. He said, Ireland or Leinster is a team with full of international caps on the name. But I'd actually, and I'll get back to you guys. I just want to see what the caps of the Bulls are, because they also have a crap load of international caps. It doesn't matter if they go in Springboks or not, but they have a lot of caps. So I can't see him making that excuse, what do you guys say? Another thing, another thing I was going to say. What do you guys think about? So Saturday it was 47,000 people that was in the crowd, so 3,000 short of the 50,000. But now we're with what's it, Croke Park, that they're going to play this weekend. I see they're talking about it's 82,000 seater, but they're talking about between 30,000 and 35,000 people only with the final. You know,
Really?
for me, that's a bad one. Yeah, that's a bad one for me for a Final Four Stroke Park. You
Jeez.
know, with a 82,000 seater. And I was
Mm.
also looking at the average of the spectators in the URC this year. It was 12,000 spectators
Mm.
on average. So I think the South African teams were really doing well with regards to the spectators. And
Yeah.
you know, if it was in the Cape or even in Natal, the game would have been sold out. Even Loftus, they couldn't sell out the game. Although it was a good crowd, but it would have been sold out a week or so before the time. And now for
Yeah.
Ireland, I think this is a bad one that they're playing it there. And people were saying, why didn't they play it at Beaver Park or something where it's
Mhm,
50,000 people, but an 82,000 seater for a final? Whoa, I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing. If you're going to shift it to that sort of stadium, you need to fill it up. It's like, I'm thinking, say for example, for this semi, if the Bulls were like, listen, semi, and we're not sure if we're going to have a home final, we're moving it to Soccer City because it's the biggest stadium we have in the country, and you don't fill it. It's like, so why did you move from a place you could have filled? You know. Yeah, it is a bit of a strange one. Because, look, I could understand both Ireland and Bulls fans, Leinster and Bulls fans, some of them saying, listen, if the final's coming here, yeah, I'll go to that, but, I'm not going to go to the semi. Much as my thing is, hey, if you've got playoffs, go to playoffs. Sure, cost is a thing, but if you can, definitely go to both. But that said, I think, yeah, I think South African, the South Africans have added such a value to the URC in terms of not just viewership, but boosting stadium numbers and that. In part because most of our teams play in bigger stadia. They all actually, let me not say most. All our teams play in bigger stadia. You look at how most of the other teams, it'll be maybe a 20,000 seater that whereas we're playing in, I think minimum is 44,000 seats. And even thing that encouraged me a little bit, the head of URC was talking about the Lions, and he was like, "Well, look, the Lions are an anomaly in terms of number of people at the stadium, but," and I'm happy he brought this up. He was saying the camera angles tend to be very unflattering, and that is so true because they show the grandstand, which is in the sun, and such that you'd be looking in the sun for all the game. If people are buying tickets, I get the feeling they're going to avoid that side. And when they show the reverse angle, you can see that's actually where there's people. But even where there are people on the one side, it still looks empty because they never show that side. But also, I was happy that he was saying performance-wise, he's happy with how the Lions are doing. The Lions are contributing. They're not dead weight. But that, yeah, there does need to be a look at attendance figures.
Yeah, I think what the Lions must do with regard to Ellis Park is just fill it up from the bottom. I see all the European clubs do it, but obviously the problem that we have are the suites. The boxes are a problem.
Yes, at the top. Yeah.
Yeah, at the top. So people tend to sit at the top, and then you'll get the middle that's open, and then at the bottom there's a few guys. I'd say just fill it up from the bottom, and if there are people that need to sit at the top, then only open for the suites. But don't
Yeah.
don't let the guys just buy tickets everywhere.
Yeah.
Just
And
give free KFC, and we'll fill the stadium. No problem.
Easy.
I mean, it's it would add hope, put it that way. But a thing that I think about that as well is that there's the opportunity to have, I know they did it sometimes where they put banners on some of the seats that aren't available, and you put your sponsors' banners and things like that. You could get more and more companies to do that. If you're like, okay, we need to fill up that space, and as you say, fill up from the bottom, and then like, fine, if you have the suite, you're in the suite, but don't have it where like there's one person like way over there at the top, and then one person in the middle, and then one person there. If you have people sort of consolidated, it looks a lot better.
Definitely. Most
This
definitely.
is more. I'm one of those diehard guys who love to be at Ellis Park at every game. Unfortunately, I have realized that the security is not. It's if you can't park either at one of the university stadiums or park and ride. I mean, just in the last year, I know about 10 people that was robbed on their way out. I personally want a night game. I'll go in the afternoon game. I won't leave the stadium in dark. So that is the major concern, I think, why Ellis Park is empty. Is because of
Yeah.
security reasons.
Yeah.
Guys, can I quickly throw a spanner in the works?
Mhm.
As Alice Park, can they stream a game without consent of multi-choice, or do they have the rights to stream it themselves or on their own field, or have they signed that rights away to multi-choice?
I think they probably signed it to multi-choice, because if what's shown on the screen is also what's shown through multi-choice, then it belongs to multi-choice. If they had their own cameras and that, where like if what you're seeing on the big screen is stadium stuff and rather than multi-choice stuff, sure. But I think considering the TMO, when they consult, like we can get the TMO feed directly, rather than us looking at the screen in the stadium as well, like on TV. I think it goes through multi-choice.
Okay, so it goes technically, you have your own cameras, and you have a second feed from the screen maybe. So there's no like a camera on the screen. You're getting the same feed, maybe a bit delayed or something. The reason I'm asking, because there's a lot of people that cancel their multi-choice. The D, a lot of people, but they're still hungry to watch the rugby. So if the Lions come up with something like this and say, listen, we're gonna stream our home games. You pay 20 rand a stream or something like that.
Yeah.
That's some money that's gonna come in as an extra. And I mean, how much is gonna cost you?
Yeah, I think also besides multi-choice, it's also Sky Network with the URC. So I don't think they'll have the rights to do it. I think if it's not streamed, or well, if it's not shown on multi-choice, they can do it. But I never like those, what do you call those cameras that are just on one spot. So I watch a lot of cricket, and a lot of the games you can only watch it on YouTube, especially when it's school games or club games. And you miss a lot because the camera angle doesn't. I think they've got like two cameras from two angles, and it's just not the same. So I think for that
Yeah.
level, to have those cameramen that all belong to multi-choice and professional guys, and to get that for to contract them in, it's going to cost actually more than what they'll be able to get viewership. I don't know. Just my take.
But a couple of years ago, I think it was a year or 2 years ago, there was this rumor going on that Fox, um, not Fox News, Fox Sport, that they wanted to take rights away from multi-choice, giving in higher bids.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know if that, yes. You know how many people leave DSTV daily? You'll be shocked. Just go Google that numbers. I'm not going to say it. But
Yeah.
yearly, they're losing, and they're not listening to the people. You go on the platforms and everybody's complaining. They say, listen, DSTV, listen to us. We can't pay 1,000 rand just to watch the rugby. But get it a cheaper package for the sport only. But they include the rugby there, but you can watch soccer with a 200-300 rand packet. But now for
Yeah.
rugby, it's you have to get the full one. So if they
Yeah.
can, if there's anybody can be their competition, get somebody but more money and just place a higher bid and take that rights. I mean, then give everybody a chance to watch rugby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think with regards to soccer, it's multi-choice is through Africa, right through Africa.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it's been there, and so they've got the numbers in that regard. And but I always tell people, if we don't have multi-choice, look, I'm very old school. I still like my satellite dish, and I don't even like to stream because sometimes it buffers and it's like 15 seconds behind or
Yeah.
whatever the case
Yep.
may be. But yeah, I'm still old school with regards to that. And if we don't have a multi-choice, my thing is then they're going to have pay-per-view, and then that's how the Americans and
Yeah.
the overseas
Yeah.
sport, and that is a crap load. And I also like my UFC. So UFC is also part of multi-choice. If I have
Hmm.
to go and pay pay-per-view just
Hmm.
to watch those UFC fights, it's like 50 $60, for a pay-per-view, and sometimes, so and then you're also not guaranteed to stream it. Just look at what
Yeah.
happened to Netflix with the
Oh,
Tyson
yeah.
fight. It was so
Yeah.
delayed and nobody could watch it. I think I watched like 15 minutes and then it just went off.
Mm. Yeah. But I was chatting to another friend about the trying to put in like a pay-per-view sort of system for games, because I wonder if they could at least pilot it with one of the competitions, like say the Curry Cup, because then it's not a thing of, oh well, you know what, Curry Cup is also on, like, you also have other companies doing a different system with it. You know what I mean? Because like with the URC and Champions Cup and Challenge Cup, I think part of the problem is if the other channels aren't doing it, I get like Sky Sports and that. I get the feeling multi-choice is a bit hamstrung in terms of what they can do in terms of the product agreements. But if they say, like, listen, you know what, we're making Curry Cup accessible to all of South Africa in the following way. Now it's, let's say, 20 rand a game or something. You can it's pay-per-view. So even if you don't have a DSTV account, you can access the Curry Cup by, like, you can set up almost like not so much a dummy account, but like, an account specifically for pay-per-view. And, you can load up credits. You use your credits for whatever game you want to watch, and you do it like that, where someone can be like, oh, actually, I know this weekend I'm not going to, like, I'm busy, so I'm not going to watch any games. Okay, I'm not going to pay for any. Oh, next weekend I actually can watch all the games. Cool. Let me, put in my credits, and I will watch like all 4-game weekend or whatever.
A couple of years there was something like that. A friend of mine or a colleague of mine, he paid, DSTV, but he paid only for the weekend. It was like 40 rand or something, and then you can watch the rugby for the weekend, and then on Sunday or Monday, I don't know, wherever, it cuts it off, and then you can depend. You can decide which rugby you're going to watch, which weekend you're going to watch. It's not
Yeah.
in your package. You get an extra because you pay for that weekend just to watch the rugby. Can you guys remember something like that? I never had DSTV, but I remember him telling me that.
I don't remember it, but if I'm honest, like, I've only had DSTV in South Africa like quite recently, like in the last couple of years. Before, like, in Zambia also a lot of the things wouldn't come through. Much as I was mainly based here, like, I would go somewhere to watch the rugby and that, because I didn't have DSTV at home.
The timeline should be around 2012 to 2014, around there. Maybe
I remember
2011
that,
to
Milk. I
2014.
can remember that. You paid like X amount just to watch on a weekend, and then you put it off for the whole week. You don't watch, you don't pay. But for some reason, they took it off the market again.
And they probably realized it was working, and they're like, hang on, how can we, how can we get more customers, like, or consistently?
But now they're losing more than they're gaining.
That's the
Maybe look
problem.
into
Yeah.
that again.
Mm. Yeah,
See
and like,
what? No, go, Moya, go.
I was going to say the worry as well when it comes to multi-choice in general is just that in some ways they try to do too much, because like what's great is that you have all these channels that are great in terms of like boosting local content. You have CakeNet, you have Mzansi Magic, you have like all these channels that will be like, oh, we're boosting local content. But the problem that comes in is that even with something like Showmax, on Showmax you can watch, you can put in money to watch English Premier League, but you can't put in money to watch any rugby. And I get that English football is big like through the continent, but a part of me wants to say like, we need to start prioritizing rugby, even if it's just in South Africa, to say, okay, you know what, if you're saying fine, it's still like a service you have to pay for, but it's not going to be R1,000. Hey, if you're a Showmax subscriber rather than a full DSTV subscriber, you can pay for Showmax and you can add on the package where you can watch, even if they say it's one, you will get one URC game or one Curry Cup game per weekend. It's something.
Yeah, I know, it's definitely. Or just make the packages where you say you've got SuperSport 1 and 2, but then they know they have to drop their prices a lot, and I think most people will go for that, and say maybe 1 or 2 news channels and then 1 movie channel, and just or pay per channel. But a lot of people have said they must do it like that, but I think they will also just lose too much, well, thinking how they
Yeah.
think. But I'd rather go that way than, like Niels was saying just now, they're losing thousands of people, on a monthly basis. So rather maybe take that route. They're going to have to start doing something, because, I mean, I will be the last person with the satellite, but I know that, the years will come when that will also stop. I mean, and just until recently, I like my newspapers, the old newspaper, reading it. Now they don't sell the newspapers anymore, so now I have to obviously go online, get my news from online, which is quite comfortable on your phone, but it's just not the same, as reading a
Yeah.
newspaper.
Jy wil hy papier voel in jou hande.
Yep.
Behalwe met 'n koppie koffie ook.
Ja, hy's so opgevrommelde
But
koerant.
there's the multi-choice don't listen to the people. Like someone said now, I mean, I've cancelled my subscription more than a year ago. Now my brother-in-law, he's got the full subscription, and I pay 99 a month to him, and I can stream DSTV, the whole package, the whole full bouquet through him. Now that's where you could, before you could put 15, 20 people on streaming for 99 a month. Now you're limited to 3 people. They're cutting that down as well. They're taking their own money away.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
I pay my 99 rand for streaming, which is just as well. I'm sitting in front of Mnet because there's no delays or nothing. And I've got the full thing, which other people pay 1,000 rand for. But now, like I said, where you could add 15 people a couple of years ago, now it's only 3 or 5 people. So they're actually taking money away from themselves. And I don't know why they can't think any further.
Did you guys see in that one scrum in the Sharks and the Bulls game? Am I crazy, or did you guys see there was a flank or somebody lost their bind and ended up on the hooker's back? Did you guys see that?
No, I missed that.
I also missed that one.
In truth, I missed the game. I only caught the highlights, so I did not see that one.
Yes, ek kan nie onthou. Ek dink dit was by binne die Sharks se 22 gewees. Ek moet daai ding weer gaan, want ek het dit nog op die groep gesê en ek dink Pieter het gesê hy het dit ook gesien. Maar dit is so vinnig wat hulle dit gewys het. Sê jy, kyk die man ry hom op die ander se rug.
Ja, ek onthou jy het so iets op die groep gesê. Ja, maar ek kan dit nou nie onthou nie.
Ja, ek onthou dit op die groep gesê, maar ek het dit gemis, Niels.
Ja.
And then the last thing on the Sharks and the Bulls game, the one thing I also said, and does it make sense for you guys as well? At the beginning, you saw the Bulls defense coming out, I don't know, like demons or something. And I posted on a group, I said, yeah, the Bulls are bullying the Sharks forwards. And then later on, I mentioned something and I said, why don't they invest more in the kicking game? Putting the ball past the Bulls forwards. Would that make sense for you guys as well? In that situation, if the Sharks played more a kicking game, to make that big forwards of the Bulls turn around, rather than engaging with them, because they lost every time.
I think the
Well, I
Sharks
think
might have
that's
been
what
worried
Leinster's
about.
going to do.
Yeah, but also I think that the Sharks were worried about altitude because they then have to chase the ball as well. You can put it behind the forwards, sure, but then you're having to sprint. You're having to sprint again. You're having to sprint again. And maybe they thought, you know what, rather meet them head on than try that in case now you're stuck huffing and puffing, when they decide to return to center.
Yeah, but let's be honest as well, Moya. They number 9 and 10 of the Sharks didn't have great games.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I could not help but smile when I saw the clip of Jaden slipping when trying to do a box kick, and I'm like, yeah, well, the
Karma.
yeah, exactly.
Karma.
Him and Jordan, they both had butterfingers and they both slipped when they kicked the ball. And I think both brothers twice, So that was what. But another thing I was going to say, the Leinster game, did you see that we were talking about, sending the guys back? How many aerial kicks there was with the Leinster game? Geez, today, every second or third ball they get, they give an aerial kick, and it worked for them on Saturday. And I think that is exactly what they're going to do with the Bulls on Saturday.
Yeah, most likely.
Elias, you
Yes.
said it last week again. You mentioned something. You said that because of Jaden's why can you call it a nod he gave, that the this referee of this game against the Bulls, he will mark Jaden and be a little bit more strict on him. You remember that?
Yeah, no, definitely. And you could see he wasn't himself. He was very wary of giving away penalties, although he did give away penalties, but he was very wary and obviously not as chirpy. And yeah, no, that definitely counted against them. There's no doubt about it. They won't admit it, but it definitely did.
So that brings me to my other question. Elias, what crystal ball are you using?
Yeah, yesterday I wish I
Because
was
there's some
more
things you've
creative
been
with my
calling for
booking.
months now. There's some things you've been calling for months now. And then and
Yeah,
now this.
yeah. We'll
He
check on
knows more than
Saturday
he
if I'm
wants to
right.
admit.
Yeah. I really don't know. I just wish it would have helped me more with my betting, because I lose so much flipping money sometimes. Sometimes I obviously win, but just that I also lose a lot because I don't just do one bet. I do a few bets, and multiple bets. So yeah, I'm not always correct there. So it's probably better if you don't bet on a game to make a prediction. I don't know and analyze a game. I don't and one thing I don't do, I never bet on the Lions or bet against them. I just don't put the Lions in. It's just a personal thing that I just don't do because flipping they've just disappointed me so many times, eh?
Yeah.
Also say it's like if you're going to like bet with money, never bet about anything you care about because
Keep the emotions
you're
aside.
yeah, hearts and logic don't go well together. You need to pick a lane. That's
That's
where like I'll do Super Bruin that because I'm like okay, I'm not putting any money in, but I know if it's the Lions, I'm going. A lot of the time it'll be even where I know, like for instance, Leinster could have played the way they played this semi, like let's say in the group stages, and have the Lions next, in Ireland, and I would still be like, you know what, I'm going with the Lions. That's a hard decision. That is not like, logic does not say that will work, but the heart says, the heart wants what the heart wants.
But
But
that's
it's
why we are loyal supporters, Moya. That's why we do
Yeah.
things like that.
True.
Okay, guys,
always, yeah, but,
come on, Elias.
yeah, I was just going to say, it's always nice to bet on the underdog. So if I do bet on the Lions, if I've got other multiple bets, it's always nice to bet on the Lions because if they win, you always win because they're always the underdog.
Guys, I give you each 1,000 rand, imaginary 1,000 rand. Kobus gets 1,000, Moya gets 1,000, Elias gets 1,000. This is your true money now. Leinster versus Bulls. Who's going to be the winner of the first half?
Leinster.
Leinster's going to be ahead. Leinster's definitely ahead at halftime.
Yeah,
Okay, but you
Leinster.
can double up your money if you predict who's going to win both halves. Who's going to win the game with
Well,
both?
I've put Leinster on my Super Brew with the win with 12 points.
I put Bulls by 5. Again, because I did not put money on it. Had I put money on it, I probably wouldn't have. But I don't know. Something
This
tells
is your
me.
1,000 rand, Moya. This is your 1,000 rand. You must think carefully. If you want to bet on who's going to win the first half, you can place your bet. If you want to bet double your money, you have to say who's going to win both halves.
Leinster.
I'm going Leinster Bulls. Mainly because I'm financially irresponsible, but also because something just tells me that this is I'm thinking as well. This is Jake White's 4th year. Yeah, about his 4th year in charge. This is his World Cup. This is. Yeah, you kind of have that feel of it is also kind of a now or never for him. Sure, maybe there's always next season, but you get the feeling that he's been building towards this. With all the rotation, all the depth that's been built, this, sure, not ideal because they're not at home, but I feel like this is the moment.
Moya, you're trying to find a loophole. You can't bet Bulls and Leinster. You put your 1,000 rand on the first half winner, or you double your money and say Leinster. That means they're gonna have to win both halves and the game, or the Bulls both halves.
Okay, well, I'll just go first half Leinster.
Okay, Moya, first half Leinster. Kobus?
Yeah, Leinster both halves win the game.
Okay, I will double money. En jy, Elias?
Same as Kobus, also both of Leinster. No doubt about it.
Ek is ook so. Ek soek uit 2000. Imagine no money. Julle en dan so vinnig die eerste divisie begin, hè, Currie Cup. Dink julle die Griffins wat nou daar teruggesit het uit die Curriebeeker terug na eerste divisie toe? Dink julle hulle gaan perform hierdie eerste divisie, hierdie Curriebeeker?
Well, but they have lost a few players, but I don't think it's that many. So yeah, I think they, unless everyone's just feeling really demotivated, they should dominate.
Yeah, I think they would like to be back in the Caddy Cup, so they would like to dominate in the first division.
Yeah, no, I was looking at this chart sheet, the one that you posted today, about the Currie Cup and the Lions players. If we do have those players available, I think that the Lions will really do well. Look, it's a level down. It's more open running rugby, more like the Super Rugby. I think it's going to be very interesting, and I think the Lions are going to, I didn't say they were going to do well in the URC, but I think in the Currie Cup, I think they can go to the final again. And let's hope we don't choke this. When the Currie Cup starts. But I
Yeah.
think we can actually win it. Because I mean, if I just look at the chart sheet that you were saying, and you showed we've got very good depth there, and it's all experienced guys on that level. If we can keep those guys for the Currie Cup.
Yeah. No, exactly. And my thinking as well was that, one, we need guys to stay healthy. And I was thinking about it, and there's guys who, it's going to sound bad in some ways, but there's guys who have no business being part of this Currie Cup campaign simply because we've played them so much in URC. There's some guys where I'm like, look, you know what? You have done such good work for us, but you do need a break at some point because, otherwise we're going to play some of these guys into the ground. And you also can't have it where now, again, it's like we're making that final push in the season in URC and guys are looking tired. And it's like, oh, why? Well, because they've been playing from July through to May.
Yeah, especially a guy like Pretorius, that's been.
Yeah, that's why I left him off. I was like, JC Pretorius has played a lot of rugby for us. I don't want to see him in the Currie Cup because I think this is the thing, right? It's like there's some guys where, sure, they weren't always starters in URC, and so we can use them. But the guys who've started most of the games, we need to just make the call and say, you know what, we're not actually playing you. It's also why, for example, I left off PJ Butter. PJ Butter has played almost every game for us. We don't need him in for the Currie Cup. We need him to rest. We need him to, be nicely recovered in time for URC. And the list goes on really where, there's guys who should be there. For example, looking at Nico Stain. Nico Stain has played a lot of rugby for us. Yeah, we might need to be a bit tactical with how we use him.
And
Number
also,
one,
I
Moya.
didn't put in Niels as bulldog. You didn't put him in there, but he was also injured a lot of times. I did think he could play maybe a few games at least. Eh?
Sorry, who?
What's our center? Yeah, you're bit bull.
Inco.
Neil Inco.
Oh,
yeah.
Uncle Vic. Yeah.
Moya?
I thought about that as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Point number one, I love spreadsheets. Because of my work and stuff, I love spreadsheets. So when I saw your spreadsheets, I was like, yeah, this is cool. But now, after you explained to me how you came to make the spreadsheet, you've given me an idea. So we all have homework for next week. We're going to make our 23 of our choice out of that spreadsheet of Moya.
Okay.
And then we release 20 next week's podcast. What do you guys think?
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, I'm keen.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So you say 23 guys on a spreadsheet for the Currie Cup, am I right? Just for the Currie Cup then?
Yes.
Okay.
The names he left out, we leave that out because you heard him. He explained everything. So not PJ Buerta, no this, no that.
Inco.
Yeah, no Enko. Just the players he had there.
Okay. Can we include the ones returning from injury as well?
Okay, Moya, let's do this. Update it like you want it to be, and then you post it on the group, and then we can have it and make our own 23 out of it.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Moya, can you do one for the Springboks as well?
Oh, I can try. Yeah, I mean, we've got 55 people. Yeah, I can try.
I'm not involved in that one.
Okay, Moya, narrow it down to 30 players.
Whew, okay. I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
No pressure, no
Because
pressure.
yeah, because that's my thinking. Is like, do I go according to what I think Rassi will do with the 30, or do I go with sort of like what I would hope the 30 would be?
No, Moya. I think for that one, we all can get the squad. We make our own for that
Mm-hmm.
one, and then I want you to make two of yours. One that you think Russ is going to make, and one that you hope you want to see.
I
Yeah,
can do
but
that.
because it's going to be two different ones, like Moya was saying, I don't think Russia is going to play all the big guns, because I mean the competition against Italy and Georgia, I don't think is as strong as the previous year's inbound tours. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what your predictions will be on the players.
Ja, ons doen dit.
I'm
Huiswerk
excited.
vir volgende dinge se. Die Springbok toetse begin die hoeveelste Junie?
28th.
28th. Yeah, and we're the 11th now. Okay, no. So next week we do the Curry Cup, and the week after we do the Springboks one.
Nice. Yeah,
Okay.
sounds good to me.
And also just a quick one, Niels, talking about chokers, we'll see who will be choking this weekend, because if the Bulls choke, it will be second year in a row. If Leinster chokes, which I can't think again, it will be quite a number of chokes they had. And let's see who's going to be like the Proteas. I mean, we like finals, but
We
we can't
must
win the
not
final.
choke.
And they are at 43 for 4 with the final with the test. And I don't know, is it a South African thing? I don't know. It's quite interesting. Is it a mental thing?
Is there something wrong there at Lords? Because Australia lost because quick, and South Africa also.
Yeah.
What's going on the pitch there? Because that's one of the oldest and the best preserved pitches in the world.
The ball keeps very low. It's very, very low. So the bounce isn't as much. But like Kobus was always saying, you get Stokkebokke.
Ja,
They just not
Stokkebokke.
doing it in finals. Yeah, hulle doen dit net
Ja.
in 'n final.
Nee, glad nie.
Ek hoor
Ja.
Labuschagne moes geopen het vir die eerste keer.
Labouche. Ja.
Hy was gewoonlik uit derde ingekom.
Ja, ag maar hulle het baie diepte op hulle kolvleis, jy weet. Ons het nou goeie bowling attack, maar ons het net nie daai kolvleis soos die Aussies nie, hoor. Ek dink hulle is maar tans die beste, veral met toets cricket. But again, talking about the crowds, did you see that Lord's crowd was, two foreign countries playing on Lord's, and it was a sold out crowd, 30,000 way back already, quite a couple of weeks already. It was sold out already. And yeah, we're struggling with rugby in a URC final, 82,000 seats, and they can't fill it up. Again, I couldn't believe it, and they reckon so far 30,000 tickets have been sold. I think it's actually going to be quite a downer for a final. Don't the guys like to watch South African teams play in a final? I don't know.
Ja, nee, kyk, ek weet nie. As ons dit nie wen nie, dan weet ek nie meer nie. Dan as ons nie finals verloor nie, dan kom ons nie in 'n final nie. Maak nie saak of dit one day is of 'n T20 is of wat nie. Ons kom net nie daar nie.
Ja, verseker. Definitief.
Okay, julle, kom ons wrap hierdie af. Julle onthou julle huiswerk, nê? Moya, you're going to update it and you're going to post a new one so we can pick out 23 players for the Curry Cup for next week's podcast. And then we have 2 weeks to prepare for the week after that.
We'll make it so.
100%.
Dankie julle, lekker aan vir julle almal.
Ek weet verder julle praat salig rugby.
Moenie vasvries nie.
Okay. Maar you guys,
Bye.
Kobus, Niels, thanks a
Bye-bye,
lot,
julle.
man.
Bye-bye, mooi, Niels, Elias.
Thanks for
Bye.
that,
Cheers,
guys.
julle.
Yes.
Have a good night.
Thank you guys. Bye. Bye.